This may go without saying, but I wanted to make sure I didn't go without saying it, just to make sure we're all thinking on the same wavelength here. Some of the times we're faced with a challenge because someone hands us a photograph and says, do this please, fix this, or as more realistically, just fix this. Just take him out of this photo, put him on a different one. Well, that's a challenge, and it's not great if we don't have control over it. But if you're the one with the camera, think about this before you take a photo. And I've done this deliberately just to show you different scenarios. This is my son, and I took a photograph of him deliberately standing in front of a very busy background just to show that would not be a great choice of a place for take a photo of him, because it would be very challenging to try and extract him out of this photo. Even moving to a different location, I mean, this is still not great because it's still very challenging. He's standing in front of a tree and, hey, this is his hair. That's just the reality that I live with, trying to extract him out of a photo. So instead, we moved a little further over, still in the shade, so I wouldn't get bad shadows on his face, but had him stand against a wall, which is generally fairly white. So that would be fairly easy, or easier, for me to make a selection. So standing far enough away from the wall not to cast a shadow, but also where it's actually quite white. Now, one of the things that we can do, one of the tricks that I'll mention at least once more, I'm sure, and that is the advantage of using adjustment layers, is you might temporarily use an adjustment layer to try and help you. So, for example, in this case, make the background look a lot whiter and make his hair look a lot darker. So then when I'm trying to do things like select color range, for example, it's giving me a higher amount of contrast, so that might help. But now, the other possibility here, we have a studio, and in that studio, part of what we have is a green screen background. Well, this is a particular type of lighting which is meant to be a nice even color, so in theory, it should be easier for me to go into color range and do this. Still have the preview set on from before, but it should still work. And I've got this localized color cluster, so I'm trying to keep adding with the shift key, trying to make it look pretty good. Push the fuzziness up a bit to get a little more of his hair. Something like that. Click OK. Inverse the selection. Pop it up on a layer, see what we've got. Looks pretty good, although we can't often tell until we put in some contrasting background. Now we see we still got quite a bit of green, so we'll use the same trick I did earlier, where I'll just tell color range, I want you to look in this area. So I'm going to hide this background. As you can see, I'll use color range, and as long as I can go to the very tip, you can see now that I'm pull that fuzziness down so it looks just like almost like I'm getting the backlighting of his hair. That's the part I want to select because that's the little trace of green that's left. Click OK. Hit delete. Still needs some work, but it's pretty good. And so the bottom line is, if you have the choice, if you have the control over the environment where you take the photo, you can make your life easier by thinking about where you're shooting the person, what the lighting is like, what the background's like, how busy it is. The more plain the background you can get, the better choice you have of making a selection that much more easily.